Hey everyone, this is Uthris, and we are back in Scrap Mechanic today, working on a new kind of famous vehicle, I guess, if you guys know your anime or up to date on anything like that. We are building Lupin the Third's, his Fiat 500. It's like a 1965 Fiat, I believe, or around that time. At least that's based on Google Images, that's kind of what it looks like. The Fiat also made a real Lupin the Third replica that they sold for a while, I believe, and that's pretty cool. You know, anime kind of getting famous enough to where they make a real vehicle based off of it. Anyways, this thing is a little bit of a hard build. Initially, of course, we're going to be working on the frame a lot. It's a 4-seater, but just because of the shape, if you guys know what the Fiat kind of looks like, it's almost like a bigger, it's basically like a Mini Coupe if you think about it. Just old and a little bit more like a buggy. So just how big kind of Scrap Mechanic is, I had to get rid of the back seats and ended up having to sculpt my own back seats that you guys can see me kind of doing here, just to try and get the thing more compact. It's a very small vehicle, and Scrap Mechanic doesn't do small vehicles very well. And you know, the DeLorean, you know, is a very long vehicle. Even though it has slopes on it, we were able to do that just because of how long it is. This thing is, I'm trying to compact it as much as possible and get the body, you know, as close as possible, and you'll see us expanding some of it a little bit. And so when we get this thing all finished and driving around, you'll notice that it is fairly large and bulky, probably compared to the anime, but there's not much more I can do to compact it down. At least I don't think so. But the main reason I'm doing this is because it has that kind of beetle shape where it's this kind of half moon kind of top canopy area, and I'm practicing again using these rotors to try and get different and more complicated shapes with the builds, because I want to try eventually getting some more complicated things done. I'm thinking about making the Swordfish from Cowboy Bebop, that spiked ship, and it's very curved. It has a lot of slopes, and so I decided to do this as almost as a test and something you guys can enjoy as well if you like Lupin the Third. It is a really good classic anime, and I do suggest it if you guys haven't seen it as well. So you can see kind of the shape we're going for is this very high kind of profile on it, and from the side it looks generally correct. If our character wasn't such a small kind of dwarf-like person, I think the scale would be a little bit better portrayed. If maybe a normal standard human-sized person was sitting in the thing, it would look a little bit more right, in my opinion, just because of the size difference here. Some test driving, of course. Always gotta test drive your vehicles relatively early, fix your kinks before you move on to more finishing details. Make sure you can turn your wheels, cut away your wheel wells, so everything is working pretty much as intended. Now the front end here is a little complicated, so it flattens out a little bit in front of the hood and then continues to roll towards the grill, and then it has kind of a flat stubby nose on it. And so you'll see how I handle this eventually is that we give it the flat stub, and then we kind of bend the metal as best we can around that and to that point, and that'll give us the kind of stubby look that we end up with. And already, if you guys can tell just from looking at the speed build, the profile is generally accurate. It gives off that kind of bubbly, compact car vibe. It's just wish, our character was bigger to make it look like it was a smaller vehicle compared to our, sight lines and things like that, Like, looking up at this thing feels weird. It makes it look bigger than it actually is. So maybe, I wish there was a way to copy vehicles. This is actually on a new save compared to the last 3 builds, because to cut down on lag, I'm having to make multiple saves. Here, you can see wrapping the metal around the grill area, and then also working on ways to make the grill a little bit more interesting than just that flat area as well. So we're just using a box to kind of break up the surface. It does have a moonroof, which is pretty cool. Characters will shoot out of it during car chases and things like that, so gotta have your moonroof and little knickknacks like the front headlights, the back headlights, and of course the trim, and try and get it low enough to the ground so it looks like, I think about, it's not very high off the ground. If you look at the body compared to the tires when it's just resting, it's maybe slightly lower than half the tire height, but you know, it is a fairly low vehicle, and you know, we want to try and capture that as best as possible. The doors will end up giving us quite an issue, just because the DeLorean was rather easy if you think about it, because it has those gull doors, and those just open up vertically, which is fine because that actually gives your character headroom to get out of the seat and everything in Scrap Mechanic, because Scrap Mechanic, it doesn't really kick you out to the side or anything like that. It kicks you out kind of vertically right above the seat. And so that's going to give me some troubles. I actually get stuck on that roof a whole bunch. We're also working on the back end. The back end of Lupin's car can actually open up, and these vehicles, usually the engine is in the back rather than the front. So we're trying to display that. We also put some rockets in there because he actually gets a bit of a speed boost by opening up the back. I don't think he has rockets back there per se. I think he probably just has a supercharger or something, and you're just trying to get more oxygen. But you know, there's no real supercharger in Scrap Mechanic, so I went ahead and just added thrusters. So when it opens up, you can turn on the thrusters and you can go quicker that way. It's just, you know, limitations of the game, I suppose, at that point. Working on the doors now, you can see we do have a lot of wiring going on, and also trying to figure out whether to attach the upper parts of the windshield to the doors themselves, which I think it was what we settle on eventually, because it's just the easier route to take. And you can see with the side panels on the doors, just it still looks massive just because of the camera angle we're at compared to the thing. And you know, if that's my one complaint, that is my only complaint with how the overall thing turned out. It just feels and looks bigger than it actually is, and so I couldn't quite get the scale, in my opinion, correct. The DeLorean, it looks a little bit taller when you're close to it, but from a distance, it looks pretty much spot on, in my opinion. But you know, this is what we settle with when we do a little bit more of a complicated shape. Also, I tried to get that side kind of line down the vehicle as well, using those 45-degree angles, kind of boost out the width of it about at the lower half section, and then we keep the upper half a block in on each side, so we can get that little profile nice and tight up top, and then a little bit wider on the sides because they have that body line that runs down it. Some more testing, and then eventually here we're gonna paint this thing up, put the moonroof back on and get that functioning, and you can use that to get out of the vehicle because, you know, otherwise you'll get stuck. So I suggest opening up the moonroof, getting out, and then closing it behind you. Kind of a shame you can't get out the side. You know, I mean, you can kind of, but you just get stuck very easily. Had to edit the door to try and get it to open smoothly. It was just a bit of a challenge here, but overall it turned out really nice, and I think I liked it. I was testing out to try and maybe get the camping gear and his bags and boxes on top as well, but nothing really fit, at least in my opinion. This thing is going to be painted kind of this off palish yellow. It's not a very strong yellow in the anime or anything like that, and this is really the closest color that we had. It's actually in the orange section of the paint colors, and you can see that the problem with that is it is such a plain looking vehicle that the build, in my opinion, looks plain once you're done with it, and it looks a little dull. I tried adding maybe some trim along the windows and stuff. I didn't like that, so we ended up erasing that and just keeping the interior dark to break up the color. But it turned out well. And so we'll finish up the painting here, and then we'll go ahead and get some shots of the vehicle at normal speed so you guys can see how it turned out. So here is the finished Fiat 500 from Lupin the Third, 1965-ish, and I think it turned out really well. You know, the overall profile is good. Again, I kind of wish our character was just a little bit taller, bigger, probably twice as normal size, and we'd probably sell the scale as proper at that point. But since we have kind of a smaller dude, it doesn't look quite 100% authentic. The overall color, you know, again, it's plain. It's a very basic, plain car, but it's supposed to look plain. You know, we get our nice snub nose on the front, which I like the way it turned out. You know, trying to get that look right was pretty challenging, and I think we handled it fairly nicely. Only real problem, I guess, with the handling is the wheels are hitting the undercarriage and things, preventing us from doing really sharp turns, but that's okay. And also, it kind of renders our shocks useless. As you can see, they're pretty much fully extended, just sitting here, and they should be compressed at least a little bit, but not much we can do with just the frame in general like that, trying to keep it as low to the ground as possible. And we can open up the back, revealing the engine, and of course we can turn those on, and that gives us some extra speed for later. We have doors that can open, we have the moonroof that can open, and moonroof is definitely the best way to get out of the vehicle once you're inside of it. So we'll go ahead and take it for a little bit of a spin. You guys can see how it performs. You know, it's a little bit of a bumpy ride, but in the anime, it's also a pretty bumpy kind of vehicle. It's not, you know, the best optimized thing in the world. You know, his car chases. Just remember him chasing and trying to save that girl. Kind of initially, it's kind of a really nice car chase of him going off road to basically ruining his car and everything like that. As I do right now for you guys' entertainment, I suppose, just flipping the thing, because I'm terrible at driving, apparently. Anyways, I think that's going to do us for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. If you all enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to my channel. For more creative goodness, go ahead and hit that like button so I know you guys enjoy this kind of stuff. Check out my other videos if you haven't already, and leave a suggestion on what you guys want to see built next. You know, anything from pulp culture to movies to anime, I can do it. So I'll see you guys next time in some Scrap Mechanic.